Happy Monday. How are we all going, people? I know everyone's recovering from the big football hangover. Obviously the Richmond Football Club got up, and then the Melbourne Storm got up, and everyone seems like the streets seem pretty quiet at the moment. So it's been a big couple of days for everyone, and how are we all going? Hopefully everyone is feeling absolutely fantastic today. How are you, Carol, and everyone else that is getting on? So what I want to talk about how to communicate. Michael, how are you, buddy? And the power of communication, and how communication is absolutely everything. It doesn't matter if you're a different species, doesn't matter if you're a different race, if you're a different gender. How we communicate is absolutely everything. How we communicate within a team, how we communicate in a relationship, how we communicate with the world, and more importantly, it really comes down to is that self-communication. It's how we communicate with ourselves, because this is what people don't understand. If you want to be able to communicate with people around us, then you want to be able to communicate with yourself properly, because if you can't have that self-communication, and you're not communicating with yourself in a way that you're going to be able to express yourself, then what happens with you have an internal conflict, and that internal conflict will be able to express to others. So people that don't speak their mind, or just say you want to go for a job interview, but for some reason that you're not going for that job interview. Hey Blakey, how are you, buddy? I was just over your place, come to pick up the car. Hope you're having a good day, mate. And and that's the thing. If you're having that internal conflict with yourself of, hey, look, I'm not expressing myself, you become resistive in yourself. So if you're not expressing yourself what you're feeling, then you're not being truly who you are. So I find that if you're firstly having that internal conflict with that self-expression or that self-communication, then you're going to be having that in all other areas of life. So it comes to my understanding that in anything that you want to do, a lot of people walk around with a lot of heaviness, walk around with a lot of not darkness, but if they're not expressing themselves, then how can they let someone else know, or the world know who they are, without having that internal conflict? So without having assumptions or having that, people want to be able to communicate with a team, communicate in the right way of expressing yourself for what you're feeling, of the result, because every time you go to communicate with anyone, it's for obviously a result, and to express how you're feeling within. But what can happen is people can communicate in a way that they're not expressing their true authentic self, and they will hold on to a lot of they will have a lot to say within, but they won't, if they're not communicating within themselves, they won't show up being who they are either. Because if you're not happy with communicating who you are or how to express yourself, you're not going to be functioning, in reality, or as a person anywhere near your potential, because of obviously you're not expressing yourself to your best, your best potential. And it's very important as well, what you need to understand. Communication is energy. It's obviously verbal. It's body language. And it's obviously expressing who you are through your identity, and for you to communicate through the world. Because if you're holding yourself back of expressing yourself, you're going to hold yourself expressing yourself in all areas of life. Yeah, and you see a lot of people come into this. I'm in the wrong lane. So this is very important. So just say you want to go for a job raise, but you know that you're worth a lot more, and you want to go, you want to get a raise in your job, and you want a new job. If you're not communicating in such a way that that you want to express yourself and tell people about your self-worth, tell people about your self-appreciation, or what you're doing and so on, it's really important, because you need to be in that place of saying, look, this is how I'm feeling, this is how much I'm worth, and this job, what I'm doing, I know that I'm worth a lot more. So can we come to an agreement where how I can express myself, and I can move forward into being who I am, and that's a really important thing as well. And it really comes down to a lot of conviction. And when people talk about confidence, a lot of people's self-worth really gets squashed by people not speaking their heart or speaking their mind. Like, there's a difference with speaking your mind, with giving opinion, with ego, and that's different, yeah? But when you're speaking from your heart, and when you're speaking from who you are, you can become, that's like, people really understand that, hold on, I am okay with who I am, and that's where that communication comes up. It can be to another one, it can be to a loved one. Hey Tracy, how are you, my sister? you know, and communication is everything, yeah, because, you know, you want to communicate if obviously you're not liking a situation. You want to communicate if you feel like something doesn't feel right. You want to communicate if you want to regress, or you progress into a lot of other things. So that's everything that you can communicate, and leaders communicate by communicating in a way that, hey, look, let's move forward. This is what I want. This needs to change. Because I know a lot of people go through life and they communicate in a way that, or they don't communicate, and they will hold on to this pain, they will hold on to this heartache, and then I will say, have you communicated with this person? Have you actually found out how they feel? And they will go, no. So I'm like, how do you know how they're actually feeling? And they're like, oh, well, that's what I get from it. But do you know what I'm saying? Like, people can have an idea or an opinion or assumption of someone, but they truly don't understand, or they truly don't know the truth of it all. So I go, have you asked the question? Have you expressed yourself? You know, a lot of people will go into, job situations or teams or something, you know, and they don't want to speak to their boss to say, well, look, to be honest with you, I'm not really liking where I'm at. You know, I feel like I deserve more. And that really comes into relationships as well, that, you know, you want to be able to communicate in a way of saying, instead of letting it ball over and then all of a sudden it just balls up and you don't know, then it shit hits the fan. You want to be able to communicate and say, look, this is how I'm feeling. Obviously, the communication and the delivery of the communication is everything, yeah? The way you communicate with another person is absolutely everything. So you don't want to go, rah, 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 you did this wrong and you did that wrong and rah, rah, rah. You want to say, look, I want to communicate with how I'm feeling, and you know, and this is not sitting right. Can we come to a conclusion, or can come to a result? You know, and that's really important as well. And obviously, if emotion gets involved and the wrong energy, which I can be a culprit of that myself, like you're wanting to express yourself in a certain way, but if you have emotion comes into that, your intellect goes, and you won't communicate as effectively, you won't communicate as clearly as you desired, because obviously emotion and you're focusing on something that's going to hinder your communication. So, you know, by the way you express yourself to yourself, more importantly, and I'll say that again, the way you express yourself, excuse me, to yourself and to one another is absolutely everything. Because if you're talking to yourself in a way that doesn't have self-respect, in a way that doesn't have acceptance, then you're not going to, respect yourself with another person, or you won't allow, you will allow people not to respect yourself in that perspective as well. So, again, what I say about communication, as humans, we open our mouth and you hear these things called the English language, or not the English language, because it's, there's all these other languages. But if you aren't communicating with yourself within, your communication isn't going to be received correctly, yeah? If you're communicating in a way that you don't love yourself, you're communicating, if you're holding on to anger, if you're communicating there's no self-worth, self-love, you're going to express yourself nowhere near efficiently or effectively as you desire. And if you truly want something in your life, if you truly want something, in as you go through your journey, the way you communicate with what you want, and don't get me wrong, the first step of communication might not always get you the result, yeah? And this is where you need to keep working through it, because a lot of people will want to keep, they will want something in the relationship. Maybe the first communication wasn't the right way, or they want a pay rise, or they want to express something because they want to be able to speak from the home. But if you aren't, people where they fail is the first step of communication, or the first time they communicate, oh, well, I didn't get the result, so I'm going to stop. No, you keep working through that. You keep expressing yourself the right way. Obviously, express yourself the right way that, that others or the other, so meaning a group of people or one person, will understand and go, okay, look, I understand what you're going through now. Yes, let's meet halfway. I'm sure that we can come to a conclusion and, we can work through this. That's extremely important, because what normally happens is that once we get better at communicating, the first step of communication, as we are learning to become better communicators, might not always be the most effective way to communicate. So as we want to, communicate and go, okay, look, let's keep moving forward. Let's learn how to communicate, and that's for everything, people. You want to be able to express yourself through your heart. When you can express yourself through your heart, most of the time it's through the heart, and it's in the right energy, yeah? And it's not going to be, you know, it's not going to get emotion into it. And I know with myself, I've let emotion take control of how I want to express myself, and it hasn't been the best. It hasn't been the best method of communication. You know, you have to be a big enough man or woman to put your hand up and say, well, okay, cool, yep, all right, how can we do it better? But please don't give up on the first expression of communication, because if you're going to be giving up on the first expression of communication, then you know what I mean, you always want to be working through it, because when you are talking to a group or when you're talking to another, they're going to be most likely in a place of accepting what you were talking about or not. But the more you keep showing up with the right communication, the more eventually you'll be able to get your result, yeah? Because as humans, where a lot of the breakdown happens, where a lot of, you know, any connection, you know, the connection can be through job, the connection can be through relationship, the connection can be through friendship, is that when there's a breakdown of communication, there will be a breakdown of connection, there'll be a breakdown of a lot of other things as well. That we don't want to assume, we don't want to go, okay, this person's feeling this, or they're thinking that, or whatever it might be. You need to express yourself clearly, precisely, and constantly in a way that is being able to lead yourself and lead another to a desired outcome. Because I know even in my life, once it becomes non-cleared communication, that's where a lot of things, they seem to fail. So what I say, people, the way you're going to get better at communicating is don't communicate from your head, communicate from your heart. Because when you communicate from your heart, you're going to get a heartfelt response from the person that you're communicating or the people that you're communicating with. If you come from a headspace where there will be opinion, there will be ego, there'll be emotion, you're going to get the wrong response, yeah? And we all know that. So it's very important as well that, you know, with everything that we do in our life, is that, you know, there's going to be trial and error. There's going to be trial and error. And I know that when you communicate from your heart, you're going to get the most heartfelt response, and you're going to feel like, okay, I understand that now. This is the best way to communicate. But when you communicate from your head, which is going to be, you know, there's going to be emotion. Most of the time, you're going to say the wrong thing. You're going to react reactively instead of reacting the right way. Then, you know, you're going to get the wrong response from everybody. So, being able to communicate from your heart, not with emotion, is going to save everything. But more importantly, everyone should feel comfortable with expressing themselves from who they are, because yes, there's a lot of people even still out there from these days that, oh, look, I don't want to say this, I don't want to say that. And if you stop expressing yourself, you're going to stop expressing yourselves in a lot of other ways. That means self-respect. That means when you should be not standing up from yourself, but more of saying, hey, hold on a minute, this is who I am. You know, you're going to show the world who you are. Normally when you're not expressing yourself, another thing that happens as well, that you won't take opportunities because, you know, you feel like your self-worth's down, so you hold opportunities down. But at the end of the day, the biggest and best thing that I can give you for the advice is noticing where you can communicate better, being a big enough man or woman where we can communicate better, and then obviously don't do it again, and then move on from that. Because what I'm finding is that a lot of people are letting, you know, opportunities, other people go for certain things, or they might be in a job, or they might be in an environment, they might, you know, even with that self-worth about, you know, looking after themselves internally and externally. What that comes into is that if you're holding yourself back in one area, you'll start to hold yourself back in all. When you can express yourself, when you can move forward, when you can express yourself clearly, precisely, and convictedly, what will happen is you will start to express yourself in everything, in job opportunities, in relationships, in self-love, you know, in business opportunities, you know, going for that job, because you will express yourself, because you do have that self-love, you do have that conviction, and so on and so forth. So, Ante, my brother, how you doing, bro? How you doing? We have to, well, I know I said this in the last live stream, let me know when you're free during the week and we'll have to catch up, bro. So, learning to express yourself, the world will get to see you for who you really are, yeah? We all know there's times and there's efforts where we express ourselves wrong, and, you know, we are human, and, you know, sometimes we don't follow who we are, and we let emotion get involved and the rest of it. Then, you know, you just have to go, okay, cool, let's move on. But realization, self-acceptance, and self-expression as a human with energy, you will feel who you truly are, and you'll feel comfortable in your own skin. Yeah. And what you really need to take into perspective, people, is, you know, expressing yourself is a sign, and I call it like a ceremony of energy, of, okay, through communication, you are allowing someone to feel you, to hear you, but more importantly, what you say when they hear it, they actually feel you. Yeah, you can say something wrong, and they will feel you or resemble you in the way you desire or you don't desire. So what you need to be very mindful of, and what you need to be very, very clear of, is, okay, understanding of what you're talking about, and more importantly of how you want to be heard, and more importantly of how you want to be felt. Because, you know, if you express yourself through text messages, people can obviously get very misconcepted because the way they read that. You want to be great at expressing yourself in so many ways, because yes, we all know that we can do it, you know, we can do it the wrong way, but firstly, you need to be able to communicate with yourself, because if you can't communicate with yourself, you aren't going to be able to communicate with others. And then, unfortunately, you're going to represent yourself in a way that doesn't, you know, hold you into perspective. So this is the thing. Get very clear of how you want to communicate with yourself in all life areas, because communicating with yourself in all different areas of life, you're going to be talking to yourself differently. So how you talk to yourself regarding going from your health, it will be different than how you would talk to yourself into relationship, or, you know, making abundance or helping others. So start to get very clear of that internal language, because the internal dialogue is absolutely everything. We know when we don't have the internal dialogue, or we aren't expressing ourselves the way we want to be, we will represent ourselves in a way that is way below our potential, or nowhere near how we want to be, you know, how we want to be heard. So an advanced technique of communication, firstly, it's not really how you want to be heard, it's how you want to be felt. Yeah, if you can understand of how you want to be felt, how you want someone to feel you instead of hear you, you will represent yourself in a way that you will take emotion out of it. Yeah. And this is a thing that I'm still getting better at as well, because, you know, if you say, well, I want to be a person, they want to hear me like that. If you want to be heard in a way, then most likely it's not a way that's going to represent you the right way or get you the desired outcome. But if you can put your awareness to how you want to be felt instead of heard in your communication, that will lead you to a greater result. Because if someone hears you, the next step is how they feel you. So they might hear you through a certain way, and through their model of the world, they might feel you in a way that you don't want, or which isn't what you're striving to be. So what that means is that if you can sit there and go, look, I want this person to feel me this way, I need to communicate in this manner, because that's where it comes down to. Yeah, it's about the energy, it's about the feeling, because everything that we do is energy, and everything that we do is for a feeling. So an advanced communication is how you are going to be able to communicate with another human or other humans, and how do you want to be felt. So the way you're going to say that is basically you're going to express yourself from your heart and not your head, and then you will speak the words in a tonality, which the way you want to be felt, and what that means in a tone, the way you want to be felt. You want to be able to express yourself also in a way of, okay, me speaking in this manner, me having this body language, me expressing myself like that, how are people going to feel me? Yeah. And that's a big thing that I felt, because if you want to be heard, most of the time that we want to be heard comes from our ego. Most of the time that we want to be heard comes from a self acceptance or self-realization that it could be misjudged. Yeah. But if you want to talk in a way, sorry guys, just some crazy drivers. If you want to talk in a way that you want to be felt in the right way, then your communication is going to be very clear, it's going to be very precise, and it's going to lead you into that path of getting what you desire. So I even know with myself that, you know, you can react in a way when emotion's high and intellect's low, then you aren't going to be felt the right way, because you aren't actually acting from who you are. You're acting from emotion, that you aren't expressing yourself as your true authentic self. You're expressing yourself from your head, not your heart. So the results that you're going to get are from someone else's head, not from their heart. But when you can drop into your heart space and you can talk from who you truly are, and you can be felt for who you truly are, then you're going to get the result from who you truly are. Yeah. And this saves relationships, it saves marriages, it saves friendships, it also saves everything, yeah, because you're communicating as who you truly are, and who you truly are is going to give you the result of what you truly desire. So there's some things that you know, as humans, it's everything. You know, you can open your mouth. You cannot even open your mouth. But if you're expressing yourself through your body language, from your energy, so on and so forth, that is going to still give you the results that you desire, because you're coming to a perspective of who you are and who you're not, and that's truly very powerful as well. Just there's so much traffic on the road today. And another thing that I want everyone to take into perspective as well, and really take into context, is that we want to get really good, and we not master, but we want to really get an understanding of how do I want to communicate with myself. Because if you're communicating with yourself, you're non-worthy. You know, communicating with yourself, the internal dialogue isn't crash hot. That means what you say to yourself. If you're talking and communicating with yourself with anger, with rebut, with dishonesty as well, then that's how you're going to be communicating with the world, and that's how you're going to be expressing yourself. And that's exactly going to be a mirror reflection. If you're communicating in that perspective, then that's the results that you're going to get. Because remember, how you talk to yourself within, the universe is going to be a reflection of what it's going to be giving you. And you see that if you're coming from a place of, you know, not low self-worth, if you're coming from a place of sadness, if you're coming from a place of anger, if you're coming from a place of dishonesty, that's exactly what the universe is going to reflect. Yeah. And we all know that. And what we just need to be very careful of, because what you're saying is your thoughts inside, and your thoughts are going to obviously give you a feeling, and your feelings is going to give you a belief, and so on and so forth. So everything that you're doing inside, we know if we're doing the right thing, we know if we're doing the wrong thing, that eventually we will get that communication from others or the universe of how we're communicating with ourselves within, you know. And it's a clear, you know, and it's a clear, you know, we can act. This is what happens. We can pretend that everything is fantastic from out here. We can pretend that, you know, we have self-love, or we're talking about the truth or whatnot. But eventually what will happen is the universe will give us energy. People will show up or not show up, and it's going to give us that clear indication, that memory of who we are and what is going on really inside. Because that's what it comes down to, people. It really comes down to communicating with the world honestly is going to be communicating how we communicate with ourselves honestly, yeah? And that is a really true thing. So, you know, you know where people are saying, well, I love myself, and, you know, I understand where I'm going or not. I'm supposed to be successful. I have self-respect. But most likely, then what they will be doing is they will be attracting another or others that are reflecting what's really happening inside. And that's when we have to be truly honest with ourselves, is that what's showing up out here is showing up, firstly it shows up from what's inside, yeah? And that is a really powerful thing, that if you can start communicating with yourself in a way that's going to show you deep down congruency with self-love, self-worth, self-appreciation, knowing that you deserve, you know, everything that you desire, then you're going to have that reflection outside. Because we know when people are lying, or we know when people are telling the truth, because it comes down to an energetic field, and it comes down to how you make others feel. Because remember, energy doesn't lie, and when it comes down to, energy is everything, yeah. And when that comes down to, because what happens is, if we're sitting or we're standing in our power, yeah, and that communication with what we're having inside of us is a self-expression of what we get, you know, basically out here. That, you know, how people are communicating with themselves with the results they are getting or they aren't getting, yeah? And what that means is that there are a lot of people that will say that they, you know, that they want to be successful, that they want to be healthy, that they want to be happy, that they want all these things in their life. And the problem is they aren't getting it because their internal communication is not strong enough, or isn't being real. And that's why they aren't taking the action. That's why their thoughts aren't strong enough. That's why their feelings aren't strong enough. The beliefs and then the action that they're taking, because their communication with themselves isn't being honest enough, or they truly aren't believing that they are worthy of what they desire. Yeah? And this comes to a point where how you are going to communicate with others needs to be very clearly, because, you know, most of the time we think other people get us, but they don't, you know, because we could say one word, but through people's model of the world, they will generalize, distort, and delete what we say to them. Yeah. And we're going, oh, but they should get this. That's in our model of the world. So we need to be able to communicate ourselves calmly, collectively, and clearly of what we are expressing, the desired outcome we want and this other person wants, so you can become to an agreement and take out the emotion. And at the end of the day, that purpose, or the purpose of communicating in that, when you become a great communicator, is a person of influence. When you come out, it's got to do with energy, because the way you communicate is going to show how you communicate with yourself. And where people fail in communication is that their self-communication is nowhere near as strong or congruent or the way it needs to be for them to be able to get what they're looking at from the outside world. So remember this: you can keep showing up doing activity, you can keep showing up doing live streams, you can keep showing up doing so much in the world, but if your internal communication is not as strong or isn't matching your desired outcomes, it doesn't matter what you do out here, you are always going to get resistance in here. Yeah. And that's a simple thing. So people want a goal. So what happens is people want to go, they want to take action. Yeah. But you need to understand, people, that you need to communicate yourself in a matter, and that becomes into communication with, obviously, yes, if you reprogram your mind, yes, if you're focusing on your thoughts and you're seeing your visualization and you're doing all that, that is a form of communication. That when you don't need to even show up in the world by talking. The way you show up in the world is how you present yourself, is the energy, is how you look, and so on and so forth, how you move. That is all communication. Communication to the universe, communication to yourself, and communication to others. But where people show up is they will want to smother their internal communication of how they feel, because feelings is a communication, intuition is a communication, and you want to be understanding and listening to that communication, because that is obviously a communication that's saying, hey, this is not feeling right, or this is feeling right. Yeah. And what I say to you people as well, if something isn't feeling right, then you need to look within that, and you need to question it. You need to speak to that communication. Why isn't this communication feeling right? Why am I hearing this? Yeah, or why am I feeling this feeling? And then you need to look into that, and you need to ask the question, because it's the way you want to look for answers is everything. Yeah, it's the way you want to communicate that if it's going to give you the answers or not is everything. Because what can happen, you need to communicate in a way of what you're desiring to get, you know, what you're desiring to get the result. If you communicate in a way of emotion, which I know as well, like I can do that as well, emotion can take over speaking from the heart, and you want to communicate in a way of what you want to be a goal. So I'll give you an example. So, you know, everyone is always looking to grow, everyone is looking for happiness, everyone is looking for harmony, everyone is looking for success. Yeah, that's what everyone wants in their life. So you need to firstly not do the action, you need to communicate within, so when you go to communicate without, you're going to get the result you desire. Because if you communicate without and show up out here without having the right communication within, you're going to keep getting the wrong result. Yeah. And that what happens is an internal conflict of interest, that people go, I'm not getting the result, I keep coming up with roadblocks, I keep attracting the wrong people, I keep doing this, I keep doing that, I keep doing whatever. Yeah. And why this keeps happening is because your internal communication with yourself is a reflection of what happens out here or not. So that's the root cause of becoming a master communicator. And what people forget about is that they will communicate just for the point of communicating, but not communicating with the intention of what your desired outcome is. What is your end goal? What do you want to get? What do you want to get from that end goal? And you always want to know that while I'm communicating with another person, not because I want to sit there and just, push out my attention or my energy, I want to communicate and talk about what the end goal is. And it's a very good point of, look, you can say to the person or people, well, I'm doing this live stream today for my intention of, I want everyone to have a clear intention of how to communicate the right way to get the right desired outcome, not for opinion, not for ego, but let's communicate, or you can communicate to another person. You can say, well, you know what, I want to hold this, I just want to speak to you because I want to get here, or I want you to understand me more, if that person wants to be in that. Or you can talk to, if you want a pay rise, and you can say, look, to your boss, well, I want to express myself in a way that, look, this is the way I'm feeling. I feel like I've got a lot more self-worth. I feel like I'm, worth more than where I'm at the moment, so on and so forth. Yeah. You communicate with yourself going for a job, the way you want to communicate. Because if you're going for a job and you truly don't believe in yourself, if you're truly not communicating with yourself in the right manner, then what's going to happen? You're going to show up in that interview, and you're going to show up nowhere near in the state of you showing up of how you want to get your desired outcome. So everything, your success starts with your internal communication. Yeah, that's where you would be able to express yourself easy and effortlessly in all activities and all interactions. Is learning to communicate with yourself internally by obviously, having that time to speak with yourself rightly. Journal, it's very powerful as well. Program your mind of what you desire and how you can grow through that. Because that internal communication, people, is what gives you that success. If what attracts the right things into your life, or wrong communication will attract the wrong things into your life. And that's how you want to understand that you want to be seen, heard, and known in the world, but more importantly, it all comes from within. That, people want to learn these new techniques about, I want to be advanced communicator, and it all comes with communicating with yourself in a manner which is going to align with what you desire. Okay, so start to take the time to press the pause button out here. Start to take the time within to communicate with yourself in a manner that is going to grow you into the best perspective. Communicate with yourself in a way that you're not going to find resistance, externally. That it comes, so you want to know how you're communicating with yourself, and what that creates is communication creates a clear and precise understanding of what you do want and what you don't want in your life, and then you will act and you will function at a rate that's going to be clear without forcing it. A lot of people will do activities, a lot of people will participate in certain things, but the problem is that won't be giving that fulfillment, because their internal dialogue or their internal communication is not agreeing with their external actions. Yeah. So that's why people feel like, oh, look, you know what, I'm not getting any results. This is not working for me. I'm finding resistance. I'm feeling tired. I'm not feeling the right way. It is all because you need to press the pause button, and you need to look within, and you need to say, hey, what's happening within? What's going on with this internal communication? I need to communicate with myself better inside. So when I can communicate with myself better inside, then I'm going to be able to communicate with everyone else, on an external representation. Because what happens is, if someone's living a lie internally, if someone has, dishonorable action which is happening inside, then they're going to reflect that in interactions. Yeah, they can say until they turn blue in the face, well, that wasn't my intentions, but you can see that because it's the activity, it's what has actually happened, and that's what it is. And this is a big thing. When you say to people, do you want to be successful? And they say yes, it's very easy to say yes. It's very easy for people to lie. If you say to someone, do you love yourself? They go, yes. It's very easy for someone to say they love themselves because it's the right thing to say. But it's how people act is their pure indication, because that's what drives them. Your internal communication of what you say to yourself, how you see yourself, then how people act upon that is a pure indication of what is going on with people internally. Yeah. So I hope that's added value, people. I love to teach this because I think it's very applicable. It's very applicable for myself. I know with certain ways I've reacted with emotion instead of you know, the right way of communicating with my heart, or having that internal dialogue, which you know, meets the right way. So your internal communication is going to be able to allow you to communicate with the world, with others, and more importantly, it's going to be a reflection of what you are saying and how you're feeling within yourself. Okay, guys? Because remember, your actions and your results is a pure indication, and energy doesn't lie. So have an amazing day, and I'll be seeing you guys, the True Authentic guys, will be seeing you tomorrow night, and everyone else, I hope that added some value into your Monday. Have a great day.